And then also this storm that, again, is right around Sandusky, Carsonville. Should be watching this for the potential of some quarter-sized hailstones as well, hail up to about an inch in size, with all of these storms right now that are lining up from Sanilac County into Lapeer and down into far southern Genesee and northern Oakland County, as we are still watching these storms. Very prolific, and we do have a new tornado warning that has now been issued that I'm just seeing on our system, and that is, again, radar indicated. The one in Sanilac County is still in effect until 3:15, so that is still rotating. We also have that new tornado warning in Lapeer County now until 3:45. It is kind of right under this radar, so I'm going to take the radar off, show you where that new tornado warning is into Lapeer County. This includes, and I was mentioning this storm as it is rotating, again, there is the potential of a tornado that could be occurring with this storm. Tornado warning in effect until 3:45 local time for Lapeer County. This includes Deerfield, Burnside, Goodland. I'll zoom in for a couple more communities. Mayfield, Arcadia, Deerfield, all under that tornado warning, as well as Imlay City, M53, Arcadia, Kings Mill, Five Lakes, as well as out towards M24 south of North Branch, and also getting into Marathon, Columbiaville, Oregon, Mayfield, as I just mentioned, under this tornado warning. Where we are seeing the most significant rotation with this storm is on the central and northern side of this cell. We are seeing that rotation pretty much right here in between Deerfield and Mayfield. So Arcadia, Deerfield, Mayfield, out towards Goodland. You should all be in your tornado precautions right now. Five Lakes as well as Kings Mill. Make sure you are in your tornado precautions right now, as we are under a new tornado warning. And this cell is moving on off to the east at about 25 miles per hour. So this will be right around the Mayfield area by 3:11. Looks as though potentially that area of strongest rotation could stay to the north of Mayfield and more so be crossing in towards Five Lakes, Arcadia, Lum, as well as Goodland. So Five Lakes by 3:15, Arcadia by 3:23, Lum by 3:26, and Goodland by 3:36 for this new issued tornado warning here into Lapeer County. We also still are seeing our tornado warning here for Sanilac County. Looks as though this rotation has started to strengthen a little bit more right around here. So this is just to the south of Carsonville. This will be moving in towards Applegate as well over the next, I would say 10 to 15 minutes or so. So right around Sanilac by 3:22, Applegate by 3:14, 3:15 time frame, as we have been talking about and mentioning over the last several minutes. And we're starting to see maybe a little bit of additional rotation just off to the north of this cell. This kind of looks a little bit underwhelming, but and a little bit odd, out of place, because usually we see those winds going towards the radar. So we're kind of seeing more of a rotation like that. Doesn't look all that significant, but something that we will watch out for. Anybody that's in this tornado warning in either Sanilac or Lapeer should be getting into your tornado precautions right now immediately. That is the lowest interior room. Bring something to cover your head. If you don't have a basement, go into a bathroom without any windows. Anything that you can get as many walls in between you and the outside as possible. And we're also watching the potential of a more significant area of rotation here just to the north of Flynn, outside of Elk. That just passed through Jewel. Going to be moving towards the Cache area, this area right here. Not tornado warned, but if you live right around Flynn, Elk, M19, in any of those communities in and around Flynn, Elk, and M19, best to get into your tornado precautions, as we are still seeing some of that rotation right now. And one thing that we're going to watch with this cell, it is potentially moving outside of that tornado warned area. So you can see some of this rotation that is now more so on the southern side of this tornado watch box. You can see that polygon. So Applegate, you should be in your tornado precautions. This storm is potentially strengthening a little bit with that rotation. I'm also going to jump on our our shear, which kind of gives us a look at where that most significant rotation is right now. And you can see that there is some of that rotation, again, with that cell that I was mentioning right around Applegate here in Sanilac County. I'll put a track again on this area of rotation that we are seeing. So if you live in Applegate, this will be around your area by about 3:18. So make sure you're in your tornado precautions right now. We also have more of that broad rotation with this line that is continuing to progress on off to the east. So if you live in Cache, Flynn, Elk, and Buell, you should be in your tornado precautions right now. Elk by about 3:19, Buell by 3:32. And again, this is just an approximation just based on how quickly these storms are moving on off to the east. And we also have some of that rotation here. A little bit weaker, but still enough to lead us into that tornado warned storm just to the south of Deerfield. This is going to be moving likely and staying north of Mayfield. But if you live in Five Lakes, Kings Mill, and Arcadia, these are three cities we have continued to mention for some of that rotation that could be rolling into your area. So make sure you are taking those tornado precautions, lowest interior room. Don't wait for this storm to be moving overhead just so you can see a tornado or anything like that. Make sure you are well aware that this storm is moving into your neck of the woods here over the next 15 minutes to a half an hour. So by Five Lakes at around 3:19, Kings Mill by about 3:26 and 3:30 into Arcadia. The area of rotation could be staying off to the north of Mayfield right now. And the shear component that we are watching just gives us an idea of if there is any rotation in this storm. And the good news is that storm in Oakland County, still a damaging wind and hail threat, but there is no active areas of significant rotation. So that kind of takes any worries of a tornado out of the picture. Going to go to our correlation coefficient as we looked at this storm. Not seeing any debris on that area of rotation here in our tornado warned storm. Not really seeing a whole lot here with the rotation that we were talking about near Jewel, Flynn, Elk, and Cache, which is good news. But one thing that we are monitoring still with this storm, it is pretty far away from the radar, which is in northern Oakland County. This, if we had it closer to the area of rotation, would be very concerning. But because it is off to the north of that area of rotation, that rotation is pretty much right here. Now, could this storm being lofting some of that debris that it could be causing? It's not out of the question, but because that debris tracker, that debris signature is well away from that area of rotation, what we're likely seeing in this storm is just some of that hail that the radar is picking up right now. I'm going to go back to the radar. And we have our severe thunderstorms that are growing in size here, stretching all the way down from Ann Arbor, all the way down to, or all the way up to Sanilac, Sandusky in Sanilac County. We have some serious hail that is coming out of this storm right now, just to the north of Applegate. So we have our hail, and I'm going to put a couple trackers here right now. So we have our potential tornado closer to the southern side of this with more of that hail looking up into the Carsonville area out towards Sanilac. So those that are in the path of the heaviest hail and most significant hail would be now just moving into Carsonville, but Port Sanilac and Sanilac, you are likely going to see some pretty significant hailstones out of this. And then our area of rotation on the southern side of this, that's going to be moving closer to Applegate here as we go along by about 3:19. So on the southern side, it's the tornado, it's the rotation. Northern side, it's that hail component. Could be seeing some hailstones between about quarter to maybe even as large as maybe even getting up to ping pong sized hailstones. As you can see, that estimated hail size has grown pretty significantly. So if you are in this tornado warning right now, just know that hail is also a more significant component with this cell. And this is indicating some of those hailstones could be upwards of ping pong sized in nature and in size, maybe even some golf ball sized hail not out of the question as it moves into Carsonville here right now. And again, this hail could be just as damaging as a tornado or even some of those stronger winds that are possible out of this. It could leave some significant dents on your rooftop, your car, things like that. And Carsonville, this hail is potentially going to be overhead in about 2 minutes by about 3:29 into Sanilac and 3:31 here into Port Sanilac as well. We also have some hail that's coming into the Deerfield area, closer to about quarter size, and the storm that is down just to the south of Groveland looks to be weakening a little bit, so one good piece of news there. So the two main areas of significance that we are watching, there is also a little bit of rotation on this storm right around Austin Corners. But again, the overall presentation of this cell that is closer to the radar, you can see that radar dome near White Lake is starting to weaken. Could still be some gusty winds out of that. We also have a storm over Lapeer, bringing some gusty winds, small hail. More significant cell is going to be moving in towards Arcadia. I'll show you the velocity on that storm and where we do have more of that significant rotation. Right around the Deerfield area. Going to be moving closer to Five Lakes, Kings Mill, Arcadia, with that rotation right around here. It is a little bit more broad, which could be a good sign that this storm is weakening a little more. So that is one area we are continuing to monitor. And one thing as well, we are no longer under a tornado warning in Sanilac County, but for those of you that I just mentioned here in Sanilac County, Applegate, Sanilac, Port Austin, or should I say Port Sanilac and Carsonville, we still do have some large hail potentially out of this storm, and there is enough rotation that you should still be in that lowest interior room, even though there is not an active tornado warning right now. Actually, they just reissued that, so that is good news. They just reissued that tornado warning until 3:45, and we are seeing the worst of that rotation and potentially some hailstones, as I was mentioning, up to golf ball size. So this is a pretty significant storm. Rotation that we are seeing right now with it, most significant right here into the Applegate area. So if you live in Applegate, you should already be in your tornado precautions. You've had plenty of time to get into that lowest interior room. That area of rotation is pretty much directly overhead right in here, and it will be continuing to move on off to the east-southeast at about 25 miles per hour. So right around 3:19, you only have a couple more minutes before the worst of this storm is in your area. We also have some of that rotation down here, more in a broad sense, but Cache, Elk, Flynn, as I was mentioning, still seeing some rotation there. Down into our other tornado warned storm, less of that rotation, but still enough that we should keep a very close eye on it, and you should be in your tornado precautions right now, closer to Five Lakes, south of Deerfield, north of Mayfield, getting into Kings Mill and Arcadia here momentarily. No rotation that we're seeing on the storm that is in northern Oakland County. More significant rotation still happening here into portions of Sanilac and also Lapeer County to go along with some of that larger hail. And this is a pretty significant signature of some hail that has just moved through Carsonville, going to be moving in through Port Sanilac and Sanilac, Applegate as well. So I'm going to put a track on this hail into Port Sanilac and Sanilac by about 3:27, 3:29 time frame. Right now, the current indications are with this hail that we could be seeing even up to about lime or hen egg sized hail, and that's really significant stuff. So between about golf size and maybe even lime sized hailstones, and that could do some serious damage. That could even start to crack your windshield. So if you have a car that is out in Port Sanilac, Sanilac, Carsonville, Applegate, just know that this hail could be causing some serious damage, not only to your car, but even to your roof or patio furniture, things like that. If you have a glass table that is out there, some of this hail could damage that, maybe even cause some cracks or a complete break when it comes to hail that size. And we just got a new scan, and that's even more significant hail that is coming out of this storm. Now an indication that the hail is closer to about hen egg sized. So that is very significant stuff. You do not want to be outside as this storm is rolling on in. You can see that hail in particular, Carsonville towards Sanilac, Port Sanilac. Very, very significant stuff that is happening here just off to the north of Applegate, M46, M25, this region of Sanilac County. Make sure that you are not outside or near any of your windows, because some of these hailstones could cause some serious damage to your home windows too. If you have, let's say, and I'm forgetting the name of them, but a window that you can kind of look out from your roof. One of those that are on top of your roof that you can kind of look out at the sky. Some of these hailstones could cause damage to that. So you don't want to be anywhere around windows or exterior walls, as we are seeing some significant hail out of this cell. We're also seeing some hail out of the one near Deerfield, and also a little bit of that down towards White Lake. But the most significant storms that we have, and I'm going to show you our severe thunderstorm warnings and our tornado warnings. And what I was talking about is a skylight. You don't want to be around a skylight when you have hail up to about hen egg that is currently being indicated by our radar system. We have our tornado warning here for Sanilac County, including Elk, Croswell, Worth, Sanilac. This is until 3:45, and again, could be seeing some golf ball to hen-sized egg hail. That's pretty significant stuff for this region of the United States, for our neck of the woods here in mid-Michigan, to get hail of that size and that nature. We also have our tornado warning here in Lapeer County. Could see some hail up to quarter size, and we have that broad rotation that is happening right now that I will show you here right quick. We are seeing some of that rotation, and I'm going to actually jump back into the Doppler radar just to look at this storm a little bit more. So that more significant rotation probably around Arcadia. We're seeing a little bit of a muddled look. So that rotation more so right here into Five Lakes, Kings Mill. So if you live in Arcadia, Kings Mill, you should already be in your tornado precautions, and Goodland by about 3:36 is when this storm could be overhead, so you should already be taking those precautions as well. M53, Lum, you should already be in your tornado precautions as well. And we also have some of that rotation that is a little bit more broad here, but Elk, Buell, Speaker, Valley Center, just know that some pretty strong winds and maybe even some of that hail and the potential of a quick spin-up tornado is not out of the question for you. Where we are seeing the most significant rotation with any of these storms, now right over Applegate. Hopefully anybody that lives in Applegate, you are already in your tornado precautions, that lowest interior room. Make sure you have as many walls in between you and the outside as possible. And we also have some significant hail that is coming out of this storm as well currently, as this storm has been the most significant one of the day. It's been rotating and causing some hail as well out of it into Sanilac County. Here right now you can see that rotation still ongoing near Applegate, and that's where we likely have some of that wind shear that is ongoing right now. That's where the most significant rotation is. Going to be moving into the Applegate area here momentarily. We also have some more broad rotation, but still enough of that rotation near Elk, M19. You should be in your tornado precautions. Same thing into Buell, Peck, M90 towards M19. Speaker, as well as Melvin, Roseburg. Make sure you are in your tornado precautions, as well as Arcadia, Five Lakes, Kingsmill, Goodland, M53. Just to the north of Mayfield, make sure you are in your tornado precautions as well, as we are continuing to see this storm moving on off to the north. And for those that are joining us on Facebook Live, I also apologize. I am not able to look at any comments or answer any comments, questions, concerns. just because we have several warnings in effect. So for those that are hearing their communities, if you are under a severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warning, make sure you are taking those precautions, getting into that lowest interior room, as we still do have a lot of spin included with these storms. We also have a lot of hail that could be developing right around Elk, M19. Could see some quarter-sized hail coming into the Buell area and Peck, but the most significant storm right here in between Applegate and Sanilac into Port Sanilac. We are still seeing some of those hailstone, estimated hail size, closer to about hen size, closer to about 2 inches in size. So that's some significant stuff. Could be seeing some serious damage caused by those hailstones, as well as potentially some quarter-sized hail that could be coming into the Five Lakes, Kings Mill, and Arcadia area as well with this tornado warned storm that we are still seeing right now. So we have 2 tornado warnings. If you are just joining us, 2 tornado warnings, one in Lapeer County until 3:45. If you are included in that, make sure you are taking your tornado precautions seriously. And the other in Sanilac County until 3:45 as well, with this storm that could also be causing hen-sized eggs, hen egg-sized hail. That's also lime-sized as well, depending on what lime you maybe get from the grocery store, but some hen egg-sized hail. That's pretty significant stuff that could cause damage to anything that is outside. Windows, patio furniture, your car could be seeing some very significant dents, maybe some cracks, or maybe even a complete break of your windshield when you get some of these hailstones of this nature, depending on where you may live here. In portions of Sanilac County, including Sanilac and Applegate right now. So that's our hail component. The wind shear is starting to look a little bit better, so we may be starting to get out of the tornado warned portion of these storms and moving towards a wind and hail component. We are still seeing that rotation from Applegate through M90 towards Buell, Croswell, and Peck, as well as Speaker. So if you live in this area and are under tornado warning, make sure you are taking this seriously. Less of that wind shear, good news, around Five Lakes, Kings Mill, Arcadia, but still some damaging winds, large hail not out of the question, as well as a brief or isolated tornado, still a possibility with this storm as it is continuing to move on off to the east. We're seeing that rotation pretty much right overhead of Arcadia right now. And then we also have our rotation that is looking still kind of significant. Just moved out of Applegate and is now continuing along towards M25. Could potentially be moving into Croswell and Lexington here momentarily. So we are going to continue to monitor that as well, as we do have this significant storm that looks to be coming more so into a wind and hail component. I'm going to track this out as we go along. So if you live in Croswell, this will be in your area by about 3:31, Worth by about 3:46, Birch Beach by 3:50, and Jetto by 3:54. Just a few of those communities that could be hit with the strong winds. And we also have a little bit of rotation, so a brief spin up is not out of the question as well that we could be seeing. And if you are, once these storms have passed, if you are seeing any damage, you can definitely report that here to our Facebook page. If you have any pictures of damage or any pictures of the hail, especially up here in Sanilac County, Sanilac, Applegate, Port Sanilac, in between Carsonville, Sanilac, Applegate, where we've had the most significant hail on our radar system, you can always chime those pictures in, leave them on our Facebook page so we can continue to share those reports for those that are potentially in the path of this storm. One thing we're going to do momentarily here is we are going to go to a live look into Port Sanilac, that marina cam, just to kind of show the current look of this storm as it is moving in through Sanilac County. If those in production could take that up here, would love to show that briefly before we kind of continue to transition into our tornado warning, just to show the current look of this storm right now. And that, again, is our tornado-warned storm here right around Sanilac and Applegate. We have the worst of the rotation that has just moved out of Applegate, just to the south of Sanilac, Port Sanilac, and Sanilac. More so a damaging wind threat, and also the potential of seeing some significant hail out of this storm that is now moving into the city center and city limits of Sanilac, Applegate. If you live in this area, Carsonville, Sanilac, Applegate, Port Sanilac, some significant hail is a possibility out of this storm, at least quarter-sized, but some of those hailstones could be upwards of golf ball to maybe even hen-sized or hen-sized hail as we move along with this storm. For those in the back, production, if you could take that Port Sanilac cam here momentarily. And I believe we may be looking over the water. It's not really a good look, so we can stop that and go back to our radar system. That's not the best look as of right now, but kind of shows that we are seeing some of that very strong wind as well as a lot of rainfall. We can go back into our radar system, and we are still seeing that rotation and potential large hail with this storm near Kings Mill, as well as Arcadia, Lum, and Goodland. Could be seeing some hailstones up to about quarter size there, and also some small hail on the southern side of this storm. One good piece of news with this cell that has been causing or potentially bringing some significant hail is now starting to weaken a little bit, but could still be seeing some ping pong to $half sized hail, which is about 1.25 inches to an 1.5 inches. So still some significant hail that can cause some damage. You should not be outside or anywhere close to this storm. And hopefully all of your belongings, anything that you wouldn't want damaged by the storm, is inside or at least protected. We also have right here towards Springfield, Independence, Interstate 75, M15, US 24 near Waterford. Could be seeing some large hail out of that storm. We are also still under that tornado warning, still have those 2 tornado warnings here into Lapeer County and as well as Sanilac County. First one in Lapeer, still ongoing till about 3:45, and then we have our Sanilac County storm until 3:45 as well. That Sanilac County storm has more hail on it, but even the one in county still has the potential of some quarter-sized hailstones. I'm going to jump back into our correlation coefficient, see if maybe we are seeing some damage, and that's not really a good sign, as we are potentially seeing maybe some damage being caused by this storm into Sanilac County as of right now, where the most significant rotation is, and that is just outside of Applegate. If you live outside of Applegate, M25, I'm going to see if I can put a couple more labels on this. And I am not, unfortunately, able to, but where we do have the most significant rotation, now starting to move offshore, good news there. But where that is right now is now about to cross over M25. If you live outside of Sanilac, Applegate, you live around M25, this most significant rotation is pretty much directly overhead of you right now, just to the north of Lexington. We also have some broad rotation that could be happening here as we get into Lexington, as we get into Worth. You can see some of these green and red components that could be leading to some brief spin-ups along this line as it gets into Lexington and Worth here over the next 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to track this out once again. And Lexington, this will pretty much be directly overhead within about 5 minutes, and Worth in about 10 minutes time. So you should be in your tornado precautions as you are under a tornado warning. Where we are still watching for some rotation here, this is right around Arcadia, Lum, and Goodland. If you live in Goodland, you should be in your tornado precautions as well. And we will be seeing that storm moving overhead likely within the next couple of minutes. So if you live in Goodland, make sure you are in those tornado precautions right now, as we are seeing some of that rotation still ongoing currently, and that wind shear is still giving us the indication that it is rotating. Going to be moving over Goodland here momentarily. If you live out into St. Clair County and you are watching us right now, This storm is going to stay off to the north of Attica and Imlay City, but it will be moving towards Lynn in St. Clair County, as well as over M53, right around Goodland, north of Imlay City. And that's where we have some of that rotation. And we're also still seeing this rotation a little bit weak and broad, but still in more of that linear fashion. Could still see a few brief spin-ups along this line as it is moving through Sanilac County, Applegate, Lexington, Worth, down through Speaker. So any of those communities that I mentioned should be taking into consideration that there is a potential of some of that rotation that is ongoing right now. I'm going to give a broad view. I am seeing a couple comments, questions on our Facebook page. For those in Clio, you are not seeing any of these storms. These storms are off to your east. We're also watching these storms off to the north. Non-severe, but still going to monitor those. The most significant storms that we are seeing, if you do not live in the counties that I am about to mention, you are okay right now. You have nothing to worry about currently. If you live in Tuscola, Lapeer, Sanilac, and also Oakland County, just know that you are under some severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings right now, and that's where the most significant storms are currently developing. And the worst of the hail is moving south of Sanilac, just outside of Applegate, north of Lexington. That's where we have the potential of some hailstones up to about quarter size to maybe even ping pong sized hailstones out of this storm. Going to jump back into our velocity component and see if we are still watching for some of that rotation. We have that rotation right over Goodland right now, so hopefully those in Goodland, as you've been watching, have taken those tornado precautions and are staying safe. We have some of that broad rotation that is moving in towards Buell and Speaker near M90. That could be moving into Lexington. The most significant rotation with this storm is just to the north of Lexington right now and is starting to move over the beach and the shores of Lake Huron. And that is something we are monitoring very closely, as this could be allowing for some significant and serious hail here still. You can see that, and even a storm that's moving out towards Juniata, and hopefully I am saying that right, was mentioning you, Juniata, and also Mayville, as well as Rich. You could be seeing some hail out of this storm. We have the potential of quarter-sized hailstones moving into the city of Goodland and then over here towards Buell, as well as this significant hailmaker that is just to the south of Sanilac, north of Lexington and north of Applegate. Still seeing the potential of some ping-pong-sized hailstones out of this cell. So very significant stuff, very damaging storm that is rolling into those communities that I had just mentioned as well. So we're broadening the view. This is the lay of the land with our watches and warnings. We still have our severe thunderstorm warning here in Oakland County for 60-mile-per-hour winds, sized hail. That is until 4 o'clock local time. We are staying on NBC 25 and Fox 66 until the tornado warnings have been allowed to expire. Likely going to be happening here closer to about 3:45, and then we will get you back to your regularly scheduled programming. But even if you are not in the path of any of these storms, somebody watching is. So we want to make sure that anybody that is under any warnings is staying as safe as possible. And we are also on Facebook doing just that as well, if you wanted to watch us there. If you're not able to get good service or good reception, if you have a satellite and these storms are making it go in and out, we are also on Facebook. And hopefully, if you have downloaded that Storm Ready Weather app, you are getting those warnings as well straight to your phone. We have our tornado warning still in effect here into Lapeer County until 3:45. That includes the city of Goodland. Goodland, that area of rotation is pretty much directly overhead. And then we have our tornado warning here in Sanilac County. Could still be seeing some half-dollar sized hail to ping-pong sized hail with this storm. Sanilac, Croswell, Worth, all under that tornado warning until 3:45. Going to jump over to our radar system. And one thing we are going to do here again is take a look at that storm out of Port Sanilac. not seeing a ton of hail out of that, which is good news. Maybe some smaller hail. But the worst of that storm is, and this is out of Port Sanilac, this is more so a heavy rain and wind component in Port Sanilac, where the most significant hail, and we'll jump back into our radar system just to show where the most significant hail is right now. With this cell, you can see Port Sanilac right about here. The worst of that hail is now moving through Sanilac and also into Lexington. So we're starting to see this storm maybe weakening or getting too far away from the radar to really give us an indication of just how large these hailstones are. But with that tornado warning, we're still seeing the potential of some quarter-sized hail in through the community of Sanilac and potentially just to the north of Lexington. So if you live in between Sanilac, Lexington, Applegate, and Croswell, this is where the most significant hail is right now. And we're also watching the potential right around Juniata into Mayville of some small hail and the potential of some larger hailstones that are right around Goodland as well. Jumping back into our velocity, which is giving us that look of where some rotation is ongoing. Still seeing some significant rotation that is moving just to the north of Lexington, but it looks like the worst of it is now starting to move offshore. Very good news. We'll let Lake Huron take the rest of this storm, and then it moves over into Canada and is no longer our worry or concern. But until that happens, we are going to stay put and stay with it, as we are seeing that rotation just to the north of Lexington. One thing I'm also going to do is turn on the Ontario radar and see if we can get some of that rotation out of that. That looks pretty bad, so I'm actually going to keep that off. Not giving us a clean look, but something that we at least have at our disposal. Worst of the rotation now looks to be over Lake Huron, but this storm is still producing some very large hail right and around Lexington. Lots of dangerous lightning as well. And those in this storm here in Oakland County, right around Interstate 75, this is starting to produce some larger hail, likely closer to Waterford, Lapeer Road, getting into Auburn Hills, Lake Angeles, as well as just to the north of Pontiac near Independence, south of Orion, south of Oxford. The worst of the storm, and I'm going to put a track on this, the worst of the storm is going to be moving right in through here. Lake Angeles by about 3:44, Auburn Hills by 3:54, Oakland by 4 o'clock, and Rochester Hills by about 4:07. So that's the storm we have in Oakland County. Still watching our tornado warning storm here in Lapeer County. That is, again, until 45 after, so 3:45, still under that tornado warning. Now, actually, the tornado warning that we actually have here in Lapeer County has been allowed to expire, so we are no longer under this tornado warning. So even though our system hasn't updated from the National Weather Service, they are saying that the tornado warning has been allowed to expire. So no longer seeing the rotation needed and no longer seeing the rotation significant enough to allow for a continuation of that tornado warning into St. Clair County. But those in St. Clair County, northern St. Clair County, should be watching that very closely. Lexington, you're probably seeing some small hail right now. But the worst of the rotation and the worst of the hail is now over Lake Huron. So really good news with both of these storms. The one here in Lapeer County is starting to weaken, but over towards Lynn, could see some hail and gusty winds there. And also the worst of the hail is now over Lake Huron, north of Lexington. Same with the area of rotation that we are watching. As you can see, this rotation is now starting to move over Lake Huron, and we really don't have a ton of rotation left here with any of those other storms. So really good news here. that the storms are starting to weaken, but could still be causing some hail and damaging winds out of these storms. We are likely going to see that tornado warning in Sanilac County allowed to expire at 3:45. The one in Lapeer County, this tornado warning has already been allowed to expire. So even though we still have it on our system, it has expired and the worst of the storm has now started to weaken. Still could be causing some damaging winds, large hail. So you're still under a severe thunderstorm warning with this storm. And I will give you those, the time frame of that. That is until 4 o'clock. And also the severe thunderstorm warning here in St. Clair County, that is until 4:30 as we go along and move into the 4 o'clock hour. Could still be seeing some large hail, damaging winds, and even a brief spin-up or a tornado as a result of that storm as well. And I'm bouncing back and forth between our radar as well as the National Weather Service chat. So we do still have some storms here in Lapeer County near Rich. Could be causing some wind and hail just to the south of Mayville, Silverwood, Clifford, into Rich as well. Fosteria Road towards M24 under that severe thunderstorm warning, as well as a new storm that has developed near Oregon, Mayfield, Deerfield, could be causing some wind and hail there. And now we are seeing no additional warnings in our area now. I am going to give you the information on these two. If you live in northern Oakland, northern St. Clair, or even portions of western St. Clair County, want to give you this information, and then we will get you back to that regularly scheduled programming. Good news is these storms have started to weaken, and those in Oakland County, this severe thunderstorm warning still in effect until 4 o'clock for damaging winds and large hail. Could be seeing some hailstones up to about an inch in size and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Still enough rotation on this storm in St. Clair County to lead to that tornado possible tag, so best to get into your tornado precautions, even though there is no tornado warning in effect for St. Clair County. There could still be some rotation that could lead to a brief spin-up or 60-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-sized hail. We are going to get you back now to your regularly scheduled programming. We will be back again if any additional tornado warnings are in effect. You can continue with us on Facebook Live as we will be monitoring these storms right now, at least in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Want to jump into Facebook Live and answer any comments, questions, or concerns. But the good news is all of Michigan now out of any tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings. We are still going to watch these storms as we go throughout the rest of the evening, as we are not done quite yet with the severe thunderstorm threat.